Christmas was supposed to be about family, right? About warmth, laughter, and togetherness. But this past year, my children and I learned just how cold it can get when family decides you don't count. 2 weeks before Christmas, I got a text from my mom. Not a phone call, not a conversation, just a flat little message that hit like a punch in the stomach. Hey sweetie, we're doing something smaller this year. Just immediate family. Hope that's okay. I stared at it, confused. Immediate family? I'm literally her daughter. My kids are her grandkids. What on earth did that mean? I texted back, asking who was going to be there. Hours later, her reply came in, just Ryan and Melanie and the kids. It's easier that way. You know how crowded it gets. Ryan. My older brother. The golden child since the day he was born. He's got 3 kids, loud, energetic, always in motion, but somehow their noise is considered fun. My 2? Isla and Mike? A little quieter, more sensitive, and somehow they're too much. For 11 straight years, we'd been crammed into that over-decorated living room. We'd laughed at the same tired jokes, watched my dad snore through Elf, eaten my mom's burnt ham, and pretended it was magical. But suddenly, there wasn't room for us. I didn't fight back. Not right away. I just sat there, letting the words sink in like ice water. My husband Nate tried to reassure me. Maybe they're just overwhelmed, he said. But he doesn't get it. He's never been on the bottom rung of the ladder in my family. He's always welcomed with smiles. I'm the one who gets the side eyes when Mike doesn't want to hug someone, or when Isla politely declines a slice of pie. I didn't even tell the kids the truth. I told them we'd have a quiet Christmas at home this year, just the 4 of us. They were disappointed, sure, but they didn't push. They've already learned not to. Still, on Christmas Eve, I loaded up the car with every carefully wrapped gift I'd bought for my parents, for Ryan, for his kids. I told Nate I wanted to at least drop them off. Just, be decent. He didn't argue. When we pulled onto their street, the first clue hit me, cars lined up everywhere, like a full-blown party. The second clue? The front door wide open, letting cold air pour out. I didn't even step onto the porch before I saw inside. Every light was blazing. The fireplace roared. Laughter spilled out like a wave. Wrapping paper was flying through the air, toys littering the floor, music blasting. Ryan's kids ran around squealing while my mom snapped pictures and my dad poured wine. No room, huh? I turned on my heel, walked back to the car, and opened the trunk. Nate watched me silently as I reloaded every single gift. We drove home in complete silence. And you know what? I didn't cry. I wasn't even angry anymore. I'd crossed that line a long time ago. But the next morning? I decided if they didn't have room for us in their house, I'd make sure there was plenty of room online. While the world was posting photos of matching pajamas and smiling families, I uploaded something different. Something I'd been writing in my head since last night. Funny how some kids get to be the center of Christmas while others get quietly uninvited because there's not enough room. Hope everyone enjoyed the space. We sure did. Just us and the truth this year. I attached a photo, the pile of untouched gifts I had carried back into our house, still wrapped, still labeled, now sitting unopened beneath our tree. And then? I tagged every single adult in my family. It didn't take long. 15 minutes later, Ryan texted, "What is this about?" I ignored it. Melanie came next, with her polished passive-aggressive tone, "I don't know what you're implying, but this feels unfair to your parents. Maybe talk to them instead of making this public." I let that one rot in my inbox too. Then my phone lit up, Mom. She called 3 times, back to back. I didn't answer. The voicemail was exactly what I expected. She told me to take the post down. Said I was stirring up unnecessary drama. Said I was blowing things out of proportion. Not one word about my children. Not one word about leaving them out. So, I posted again. My kids deserve an explanation. They're not too young to know what it feels like to be excluded. And I'm not too old to keep pretending silence is polite. If you want this gone, you'll need to say something real, to them, not me. You know where to find us. And then I sat back, waiting to see what would happen when the silence finally shattered. After my second post, the silence didn't last long. But it wasn't my mom who reached out first, it was my dad. And not to me. To Nate. He figured Nate would be the reasonable one, the calm voice. My dad told him they didn't want this to tear the family apart, that maybe we should just come over and talk it through. Nate didn't sugarcoat his response. He told them we weren't interested in another round of being silenced while our kids were treated like extras in the background. That night, we stayed home, sat cross-legged on the floor, and finally opened those gifts with Isla and Mike. I didn't give speeches. I didn't try to explain. I just watched. And it broke me a little, because after every box, they paused. They looked toward the door like they were waiting for a knock, a voice, something to prove it had all been some mistake. But no one came. And deep down, they knew it wasn't a mistake at all. But I wasn't finished. For 5 years, I'd been quietly sending my parents money. Not a fortune, but steady, about $400 a month, sometimes more when things were tight around the holidays. Prescriptions, groceries, repairs. I never called it charity. It was love. And love, in my book, is supposed to go both ways. After this? I wasn't sure they remembered that. So, while the kids played with their gifts, I opened one more thing, my banking app. No grand announcement, no dramatic text. Just a quiet click. I canceled the auto transfer. That was it. Done. When I showed Nate the total I'd given over the years, he sat up like I'd just slapped him. They needed it, he said. I nodded. And I needed a family who didn't lie to our kids and call it easier. The next morning, my mom tried again. She texted asking if we could come over that weekend, talk it out, without the internet watching. I gave her one line back, only if Isla and Mike get an apology first. She left me on read. By New Year's, the whispers had already started spreading. Cousins were sliding into my messages, asking what happened. Ryan and Melanie had apparently spun some tale that I overreacted, that my kids weren't at Christmas because it wasn't a big deal. But the photos said otherwise. The tree, the matching pajamas, the 5-layer dessert tray, it all looked like a pretty big deal to me. A week later, the message that shook me didn't even come from family. It came from their neighbor. A sweet older woman who once babysat Isla for me. She wrote that she noticed my kids weren't there and that it just didn't feel right. That was the moment I knew, my parents weren't just embarrassed. They were exposed. The next auto transfer was supposed to go out on the 5th. It didn't. That morning, my dad texted me. Not a word. Just a single question mark. No, how are you? No, we miss the kids. Just a question mark. I typed back, no more financial support until the people I love most are treated with the same respect you give Ryan's kids. You had a chance to fix it. You still do. His reply came fast, you're being cruel. We don't deserve this. Cruel. That word sat with me like a stone. I wrote back, cruel is telling your daughter her children aren't welcome and pretending it's about space. Cruel is letting them believe they weren't immediate enough. This isn't cruelty. This is consequences. I haven't heard from him since. But I did hear from Melanie. It was close to midnight when her message landed. Long, carefully worded, like she'd rewritten it 3 times before hitting send. She started off pretending to care, I hope you and the kids are doing okay, but wasted no time getting to the point. She said my post had caused confusion. That the kids were starting to ask questions. That she and Ryan didn't appreciate being painted as the villains. She tossed in words like narrative and misunderstandings, as if this was some press release. Then came the line that made my skin crawl, you've always been so generous with your time and support, especially financially. I'd hate to see resentment destroy what we've all worked to build as a family. Work to build. As if this family was a corporation and I was just the free investor keeping the lights on. I didn't reply right away. I reread it 3 times, then forwarded it, word for word, to my cousins Aaron and Julia, and my Aunt Laura. They'd all reached out after the Christmas mess, checking in, making sure I was okay. Their responses came fast, this is manipulative. She's not sorry, she's just uncomfortable. God, Lynette, I'm so sorry. They saw what I saw. When I finally responded to Melanie the next day, I kept it short. Melanie, I posted the truth. If it makes people uncomfortable, maybe they should ask why. My children were excluded. You didn't speak up. Neither did Ryan. If you're worried about your reputation, that's on you. As for the money, it ended when the lies began. I owe my kids more than I owe this family's image. And just like that, Melanie went quiet. But the silence didn't last. Because the next voice in this saga wasn't hers, and what came next changed everything. 3 days later my phone buzzed again. Mom. Same pattern, a message that tried to sound conciliatory, she wanted to talk. Just the 2 of us. Leave the past behind. Funny how let's talk so often means let's pretend nothing happened. I asked the same question I'd asked a dozen times, will you apologize to Isla and Mike? Her answer was exactly what I'd been bracing for, I just don't want to say something wrong and make things worse. There it was, the choice to say nothing instead of admitting you hurt 2 kids. Not an ounce of empathy, just the math of avoiding discomfort. Not even for a couple of children who had quietly hoped to be part of Christmas. So I closed the door. Permanently, as far as I was concerned. No more covering utility bills. No more sneaky Amazon orders to keep the dog fed. No more popping over to patch things up when the door only ever opened for one side of the house. I was done showing up for a family that wouldn't show up for my kids. For weeks, it was radio silence. Like someone had flipped a switch and every line of communication went dead. Then, out of nowhere, a white envelope arrived in our mailbox, no return address, just our last name written in those ridiculous curly letters Melanie loves, like someone had run it through a glitter machine. I knew before I opened it what it would be, over-the-top party stationery, balloons on the front, confetti hiding in the folds. Melanie's aesthetic is impossible to miss. Inside was a trifold invitation, the kind that screams, see how fun our life is? One of Ryan and Melanie's kids was turning 10. There'd be a bounce house, face painting, cotton candy, popcorn machines, a magician, the whole county fair spread, and at the bottom, in shiny gold font, all cousins welcome. I put the card on the counter and watched it like it might sprout legs. A trap, maybe. A PR move. After weeks of, there's not enough room at Christmas, now the guest list suddenly had space for a circus. Nate found the envelope when he came home. He read it, let out a short, amused snort, and said the obvious, so now they want them there. I nodded. He didn't press. We both saw the same thing, an invite that smelled like cleanup and optics. I sat on the decision for a whole day, turning it over in my head. Then I told them. Told Isla and Mike about the party. Isla scrunched her face like she'd been handed a riddle she didn't want to solve. Mike just blinked slowly and asked, will Grandma and Grandpa be there? When I said yes, his shoulders folded in on themselves. I don't want to go, he whispered. That was the end of it. They had already learned what a sudden welcome was worth. They knew exactly how much it counted. Pride and heartbreak collided in my chest. Proud that my children could see through performative gestures. Gutted that they even had to learn how to. But I wasn't done making a point. I snapped a photo of the invitation, the glittery font, the smiling cartoon clown, and posted it to my Instagram story. Close friends and family only. The caption was short and it stung, no room for them at Christmas, but now that there's a magician and other people watching, suddenly there's room. Not buying it. My kids don't need performative love. Not 5 minutes later, my phone blew up. Melanie, seriously? Terse and thin. Then my dad, not to me, to Nate again, calling like he was trying to catch a wave before it crashed. Nate handed me the phone and I could hear the practiced guilt in his voice. We didn't mean for it to go this far. There were misunderstandings. No one wanted to hurt anyone. Then, like the adults in a play reading their lines, he asked if I'd consider taking the post down. Not once did he say, "Are the kids okay?" Not once did he use their names. Not once did he look at the real harm. So I said the same thing I'd said 100 times, if you want the post down, apologize to Isla and Mike. Look them in the eye and say you were wrong to exclude them. Do that, and I'll take it down. A long, heavy silence. Then, that's not going to happen. So I said 2 words, then neither is this party. And I hung up. They still think this is about appearances, about saving face. They still think I'm the angry one causing a scene. But the story they've been trying to protect is cracking. The truth isn't mine alone anymore. It belongs to Isla, who paused at every gift last Christmas waiting for a knock that never came, and to Mike, who still looks away when he's hurt. They remember. Every missed call. Every open front door. Every photo of a living room that had "no room" written all over it. And when children remember like that, it changes the rules of the game. What happens when everyone else finally sees what the kids already know? The party came and went, and we stayed home. No bounce house, no cotton candy machine, no glitter invitations, just us. Mike sprawled out on the rug building an entire Lego city, narrating little stories for each block of plastic. Isla curled up with a blanket and devoured a book cover to cover, only pausing to laugh when Nate burned his fingers on the grill because he insisted on cooking outside in the freezing cold. We played board games until our cheeks hurt from laughing. We made memories that were ours alone. But still, every so often, the silence between turns felt heavy, like we all knew pictures were being snapped somewhere else. Pictures with smiling faces and captions about family. By the next morning, my gut proved right. Melanie's Facebook was already flooded with photos. A scrapbook of staged happiness, group shots with everyone shoulder to shoulder, close-ups of the face painter, Ryan pretending to juggle while people clapped. And my parents? They were in nearly every single frame, beaming, holding Ryan's youngest like he was carved out of gold. Not one mention of Isla. Not one mention of Mike. Not even a polite, "Some cousins couldn't make it this year." It was like they never existed. I scrolled through once, let it burn, then logged out and deleted the app. I wasn't giving them the satisfaction of another view. A few days later, Nate's sister invited us for dinner. Just us. No show, no passive-aggressive undertones. Her kids ran straight to mine, shrieking with joy, piling on top of each other in the living room like puppies. No side eyes. No eggshells. Just love. While the kids played, I told her everything. Every detail. Even the money. She sat back, silent for a long moment, then asked a question that knocked the wind out of me. Why did you keep helping them for so long? I froze. Why did I? At first, it was instinct. They were my parents. They needed help. But as I said it out loud, the truth cut sharper. Somewhere along the way, it had turned into a transaction. I wasn't just paying bills. I was paying for belonging. And somehow, they still shortchanged my kids. A week later, a text popped up from my mom. 4 words, "We miss the kids. Can we start fresh?" No apology. No accountability. Just an offer to sweep it all under the rug and keep the rug perfectly pressed. I stared at it for a long time. My thumbs hovered over the keyboard before I finally typed back, "You can see them when you acknowledge what you did. You don't have to grovel. Just say it to their faces. You were wrong. They matter." That was 3 months ago. The screen still says, "Read." No reply. Ryan and Melanie? Silent since the night of my post. My parents? Haven't laid eyes on Isla or Mike since before Christmas. And you know what? I thought it would eat me alive. I thought the guilt would claw at me every day. But it hasn't. Because the truth is, peace walked into our house the second we stopped chasing acceptance from people who only handed out love with conditions attached. My kids laugh louder now. Dinner feels lighter. And if my parents never say sorry, so be it. They'll remember what it cost them. Those party pictures are still online, the smiles stretched wide, the glitter everywhere. But anyone who looks at them now sees the real story. They see what's missing. They see who's missing. And that silence in the photos? It speaks louder than anything my parents could ever say.